Well, hello there everyone. It hasn't been too long since I've made a video, but I'm back again because I wanted to get this one out here. Um, a lot of people do this early on when they're making videos, ranking their favorite albums, and I thought I would jump on that bandwagon and go ahead and show you, just so you have an idea. I guess this can kind of be a part two to my introduction video that I put out probably about a month ago, when I first started making these types of videos. So I guess you can call this a part two of my introduction, even though you've got right now a little bit of a sense of what kind of music I'm into. I've kind of tried to keep it kind of broad with my first few videos, just to show you that, you know, I sweep a pretty wide stroke with my paintbrush in music. What I did, first of all, I appreciate, I had a shout out from Glenn Kellaway up in Canada, who mentioned my previous video, my zombies video, and I appreciate him thinking of me in his weekly roundup. And I always look forward to his videos because he's a big Dylan fan and loves John Prine, Tom Waits, kind of the lesser known, not necessarily the hit makers. He likes that kind of stuff, so I appreciate him mentioning my zombies video. And tune in later in this video because that album makes an appearance, but you don't know where in the stack of favorite albums it will land. But it is my top 10. That's a brief spoiler. And again, with this top 10 video, it's going to show you, I don't predominantly, my favorite decade of music and what I think is the modern renaissance of music is the 1960s. That's just it, in terms of if I had to pick one decade on my deserted island that I could take that music with me, it would be the 60s. I mean, I'm not even going to go into who all was part of that renaissance, but that's my favorite. But I don't stray away from some newer stuff, but the newer stuff that I like pays homage to the old guys that I liked. But anyway, I don't want to make this video too long. I'm just going to jump right into it. This is my my current favorite albums of all time, my top 10. This could be subject to change in a year if I decide to do this video again. But anyway, let me just jump right into it. Number 10, Astral Weeks by Van Morrison. Now, Van had, by this point, had departed from his garage band, Them, and had put out his first official solo release called Blowing Your Mind, which had Brown Eyed Girl on it, which, but Van, if you know anything about Van Morrison, he's much better than Brown Eyed Girl. And Astral Weeks shows that. It shows his love of traditional folk music. It shows his love of jazz and free forming in the studio. It's really almost a record that, it's meant to be played all at once. I mean, thematic elements come out throughout the entire thing with melodic changes. It had a minor hit, Sweet Thing. He still does that one in concert quite a lot. And The Way Young Lovers Do. Actually, I was able to see Van back in 2018, and he opened with The Way Young Lovers Do. So Astral Weeks is number 10. Check it out, Van Morrison. Number 9, an album that I know every word to. I don't have many albums like this, but I know every word to this album. And that's Graceland by Paul Simon, his masterpiece. I mean, if you don't know anything about this album, read up on the history. If you can find the clips of the Graceland concert that he performed with the musicians on this album, the South African musicians, that he recorded during apartheid in the late 80s. I mean, this has, the end of side A is You Can Call Me Al. Excuse me, it's Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes, and then side B opens up with You Can Call Me Al. So, I mean, that's the middle of the album. And then the title track, Graceland. I mean, this could be a greatest hits album. I've seen Paul Simon. He's performed several of these songs regularly in his set list. It's just a great album. I mean, I recommend it. That's my number 9, Graceland. Number 8. Now, when I was a kid, in middle school, high school, this was probably my favorite album of all time when I was getting into music. It's moved down a little bit just because of how overplayed a lot of these songs are, and that's Full Moon Fever by Tom Petty. Um, of course, it has Free Fallin'. That's the opening track, which again, Tom Petty is much better than Free Fallin'. And then right after Free Fallin', I Won't Back Down. It has You're So Bad on it. It has Running Down a Dream. I mean, it's full of hits. It has a Birds cover, I'll Feel a Whole Lot Better. Produced by Jeff Lynne. It's his first official solo album. Great production, great hits. The next one, I guess number 7, is Born and Raised by John Mayer. Now, before you disregard John Mayer as just the breathy pop singer of the early 2000s who sang Your Body Is a Wonderland, this album was inspired by John leaving the spotlight for a bit and listening to Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, and Bob Dylan records, and he credits them when he was talking about what songs inspired the album. Like that late 60s, early 70s California group. And actually, David Crosby and Graham Nash sing background vocals on the title track. So definitely check out Born and Raised for John Mayer. It's fantastic. It's like a modern day Harvest by Neil Young. Number 6, is that right? Yeah, number 6, Avett Brothers, I and Love and You. This was their first major studio release. They've released several albums before, but this was the first produced by Rick Rubin on the American label. It's got some songs that are used in commercials. Of course, the title track, I and Love and You. Head Full of Doubt, Road Full of Promise is a big one. Kick Drum Heart, Laundry Room, those are like Avett Brothers hits. This is an album I pull out all the time. It was 2009 when it came out, so this is the newest one. No, that's not. I'm sorry. John Mayer's was the newest album on my list, but this is really good. Just good music. All right, next on the list, I just talked about it, so I won't talk about it much more. Odyssey and Oracle, The Zombies. I pull it out of the shelf all the time when I'm in need of familiarity. I can't get that word out. Just great album. Check out my last video. I talk about it some. All right, number 4. And I don't have this album by itself. I have it as a 2-disc. But the Traveling Wilburys, Volume 1 specifically, at the top there. And of course, it has Handle with Care, End of the Line. Those are the big hits. But every single song. I mean, that album got me through 8th grade. Is when I first heard that album. Got me through exams in 8th grade, my first year at a new school. And a lot of good memories. Traveling Wilburys, of course, Jeff Lynne, George Harrison, Roy Orbison, Tom Petty, and Bob Dylan. Jim Keltner, big studio guy on the drums. Just a great album. All right, top 3. Number 3, Blood on the Tracks, Bob Dylan. Another one that I could go. I'll probably do my own video on this. I have a box set of it that came out a couple of years ago from the Dylan Bootleg series. It's got Tangled Up in Blue, Simple Twist of Fate, Shelter from the Storm, Buckets of Rain. Really neat tunings on the guitar for this album. It's considered by many his divorce album, but as musicians we're selfish. It might have been his divorce album, but we're in a way happy he got that divorce because we got Blood on the Tracks as a result. So that's my favorite, of course, my favorite Dylan album as well. Alrighty, number 2, another one that I've talked about a couple different times, Abbey Road, favorite Beatles album. Some days this is my favorite album of all time. Past few years, just because of how much I've listened to it and the copies that I have of it, it fluctuates, but Abbey Road, production-wise, the musicianship, you knew the end was coming for the Beatles, but man, what an ending they gave to us. I mean, this was John Lennon's Jesus phase when he was rocking the beard. But Abbey Road by the Beatles, number 2, and number 1. If you know anything about me, you would know that this is my favorite album. A lot of people think it's overrated. I don't. I think it's brilliant. Pet Sounds, the Beach Boys. I got to see Brian Wilson with Al Jardine back in 2016 for the 50th anniversary, do that album in its entirety outdoors, and I was in the front row of the outdoor venue, and Al was pointing to my sisters and I during the show. You know, we were younger folks at the show, and you know, I think he thought it was cool that we were singing the songs. But Pet Sounds, again, this is another album that I'll probably do a full video on, so I'm not going to go into it in much detail. It's Brian Wilson's magnum opus. If you don't know anything about Brian Wilson, read up on him and then listen to this album. Read his autobiography. It came out a couple of years ago. But anyway, that's my top 10 favorite albums. I wanted to make it short, so I didn't go into a lot of detail. But let me know if you rank any of these in your top 10. I will see you all next time. Take care.